Good afternoon, sisters and fathers.
Good afternoon.
I hope you are not yet tired.
Okay lang.
Parang yes, you're tired.
Okay lang.
Let me validate you. I know how you feel. Okay, for today, this afternoon, I'll give you some updates where we are now, at least in terms of safeguarding as a conference. If you remember, I don't know if you were there, the first time I talked about this was in 2018. 2018, I think it happened in Iloilo. No, not Iloilo. Somewhere. Then after that, in Iloilo, and then Palawan, and now here. So just to put you into context, some might be your first time to hear me talk about this, but dispensable, because we will try to be more directive somehow, because I will be appealing to all of your superiors, because you hold a very important role, so that we can implement more actions in terms of how we can better improve our safeguarding initiatives in the Philippines. Let me put you into context by mainly my presentation will be the challenges that we have been encountering in implementing best practices in safeguarding. So I will be sharing some of my personal stories and experiences, and of course I will keep them anonymous. I've been working closely with many dives in the Philippines and also congregation. So I will be relating my personal experience and also how we have organized so far as the conference. So later, you will understand why I am presenting this to all of you, so that, especially with the new leadership now, how we can create more active and be more proactive. Although there will be more reactive responses, I'm sure, but we want to invest more on how we can continue to prevent this one big issue that we are confronting nowadays. Let me also be guided by the Universal Guidelines framework by the Pontifical Commission for the protection of minors. And last 24 of October, they released the first annual report. So this October, I heard in our meeting, I'm sure you're aware now that there will be a national conference in Pampanga. I've heard and think that the next report will be coming out, and the Philippines will be highlighted in that report. So I am curious what will be the result. So that's why, just to be somehow to align our advocacy, I will be using the UGF, to shorten the Universal Guidelines framework by the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors. So yes, the annual report is out. If you haven't read it, you can check it online. You can see it in the website by Tutela Minoru. Okay, you can just go and see that there. Okay, I think what the Pontifical Commission is pushing for is how we can achieve this conversion to a culture of safeguarding. And they are guided by 5 interconnected pillars. And this is a framework of conversional justice. And these 5 are conversion away from evil, truth, justice, reparation, and guarantees of non-recurrence. The annual report, by the way, is an instrument of conversion itself. So expect every year they will come out with a report that is publicly accessible, so everybody can see that report. You just have to go and search for it and click. So maybe October, November, lalabas na yung ating report. And the Philippines, I believe, is part of that. Okay? So it documents, the annual report documents where risks remain and where advances can be found in the Church's effort to protect children and vulnerable adults. Of course, it collects resources and good practices to be shared The very goal of all of this is how we can share these best practices, which is happening in many parts of the world already, and how we can implement them also here. And I'm sure that some of you are already doing that. And so how we can bring together all our efforts as a conference so we can really move forward in this area. First pillar is conversion, this conversion away from ego, which is, they say there are two transitions. The first one is to move away from times of widespread sexual abuse that was frequently mishandled and covered up. So now to a new period when policies for safeguarding, reporting, investigations, and care for victims, survivors make abuses rare and provide appropriate response. So now we are feeling this already. I'm sure, if not all of you, many of us are doing something in this area already. And the second transition concerns the long-term process of properly addressing the aftermath of periods of widespread abuse and mishandling of cases by providing or facilitating care for victims, survivors, and by addressing the impacts of the entire church. So we will not be neglecting the needs of the survivors. And there is so much emphasis on that, particularly as we go through the Universal Guidelines framework. I'm happy that the Pontifical finally came out with this one. I remember when I was meeting with the English-speaking countries as to safeguarding sometime during the pandemic. They were asking about Asia and the Philippines. I always say, we are still at a loss. We need some structure, some guidelines. And I'm so happy that now we have one. Okay? So I'll be presenting that later as to how that can help us respond to the challenges that we are now experiencing. Okay? So the Catechism of the Catholic Church describes this first stage of conversion by faith in the gospel and by baptism that one renounces evil and gains salvation. Of course, that is very clear in our gospels. And the second stage, an uninterrupted task for the whole church, which follows constantly the path of penance and renewal. That's why the Commission had this relentless work on making sure that every year we will be audited. In fact, they say at least 5 Episcopal conferences every year and 2 religious congregations. Okay? So every year they will do that, and I think they want to cover it in 5 years. I don't know if they will be, I don't know how they are doing now in terms of this one. Okay. So, number 2, truth in Catholic theology. And we can agree on this one. Truth telling is particularly important given the nature of sexual abuse, which is typically conducted in private and kept secret. And one of the problems that we are facing with is oftentimes we are accused of not being transparent.
Yes.
And in my engagement with congregations and dioceses, somehow I am seeing this. And so the annual report, the report, and the auditing function of the Pontifical Commission, they would like to highlight, of course, this one. Why? Because the more we are not transparent, the more we are re-traumatizing the victims and survivors. Okay, so understandably, we will have to do something more in this area. Okay? Number 3, justice. Pope Francis recognized that the evil that does not spare even the innocence of children requires in response, that would mean disciplinary measures and civil and canonical processes. So nowadays also we hear of the word crime. Sexual abuse is a crime. I think that is giving emphasis to the nature of these phenomena and making it more in the context of where we need to be accountable, canonically and civilly. Okay? And reparations. In May 2023, Pope Francis called for a spirituality of reparation. He indicated that this work of reparation would require listening carefully to victims, survivors. The role of apologies, formal and informal, is closely linked to the necessity of listening. In my work with victims and survivors and perpetrators, it is one of the objectives that we are trying to push also, how we can attain reparation. But of course, reparation would mean that we will be highlighting more the need of the victims and survivors. So they will be the one to determine how we are going to go about in these reparations. Okay? Whether they are ready or not, it is something that we cannot force on them. And of course, that will be a separate thing for the perpetrators. Number 5, guarantees of non-recurrence. As noted earlier, both SPs look smoothly have a fundamental goal that the crimes of sexual abuse never happen again. Okay, that is the goal. We want to bring down the incidence of sexual abuse. Sana maging zero. If not, at least, make it even more rare. Okay, and abuse was enabled in an environment of secrecy and concealment, according to the report. And abuse will be prevented in an environment of truth, accountability, justice, listening to victims and survivors, reparative services, and personal and institutional reforms. Later, you will see that all of these were somehow encapsulated in what we are going to suggest to all of you. In fact, we already have done something, but we will need your support, sisters and fathers. Superiors, we really need you on this one. And I think the big part of this audit and annual report is how we can make the victims and survivors part of all of this. They will be participating in the process. In fact, Rome, the Pontifical Commission, would like to hear the voices of the victims and survivors. In the audit, they will come out. That will determine also the result of the audit that they are doing. Okay? So they are always getting in touch with us, trying to reach out to victims and survivors to check whether we are doing it right, at least to get their voices. So we would know if we are somehow moving forward. So we need their voices. And part of that is making them really integral in our institution. In fact, in the Pontifical Commission, a good number of them are victims and survivors. Okay. So we just created our own safeguarding committee in the Congregational Commission, and one of that is a survivor, part of our committee. Okay. So we would like also to integrate and make them part of the committee. Okay. And this is a model that they followed in North and South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia, where they had this survivor advisory panels. Okay. It's a formal group of individuals who have direct experience with sexual abuse. And they provide ongoing advice, guidance, and support. Their input helps organizations and institutions ensure that their responses are comprehensive and sensitive to the needs of victims and survivors. I don't know if we are in this level already. Maybe some of you are. Mostly, my experience, I don't know, again, this is my experience. Mostly it's more clergy. Kami. But now I'm already hearing there are lay people already getting involved. So that is a good development. Okay. And I'm also discouraging dioceses creating their own committee composed of all clergy in the diocese. It's not easy. It's very challenging if your people will investigate their own people. Okay? And we see that happening also in the government, right? Yeah. So that's why it's hard to be objective. It is the reason why we created the ICRB in 2018, Inter-Congregational Review Board. Because remember, my superior would always tell me, okay, can you investigate the case? Oops, not me, Father. I always tell my superior, why? You're the one trained on this. I know, that's why, not me. Because it will be very, very challenging at the same time, hard to be objective because I know the person. So then he told me, so what do we do? Okay, let's try to consult and maybe organize with other congregations. So we had our first meeting in 2018. We created the ICRB. So we tried our best to come together and help one another. And there are some dioceses now who are requesting our services because they saw the disadvantage of their own priests investigating their own priests. So one bishop approached me and said, Father John, I have a case and it's not moving. Why is that so? And then I started interrogating the bishop, asking some context and to understand why it's not happening. And then I told the bishop, I think it's because they are finding it difficult to investigate because they know one another. If you like, Bishop, I can send you one. Another priest or sister if you like. And then he did. He did allow me. So we sent one. And the case moves forward. And then when I visited the diocese, usually what happens when there is an investigation, there will be, it's not easy actually. We end up, sometimes, if you know each other, you end up going against one another. Your relationships are, you hurt one another, and then you start accusing one another, and at the end of the day, you cannot sleep. So, finally, I visited the diocese, and they didn't know that I was the one who sent an investigator. They were telling me, Father, the priest here, we are having already this commotion because of this case. But finally, one of them said, you know what, we have to believe the bishop. Why? Because there is this, it was during that time, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. There is this independent priest whom we do not know from Manila coming here and doing the investigation. So that makes it even more credible. So in a way, that helped. That helped the diocese. So the blame will not be all on the bishop. Yeah. And it's difficult for the bishops. Really. It's like a family environment. It's like a father telling your son to go to jail. It's like telling or reporting your son to the police. And we know, it's not easy. That's why we need a structure to help us in this process. Okay? So, in the annual report, I said there were five countries. The first report, Mexico, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Belgium, Cameroon. It is on YouTube, by the way. Cardinal O'Malley being interviewed, and he mentioned, I think it was you who mentioned that in Mexico, I think only 20% of the local church in Mexico submitted their reports. So 80% lacking. Okay. So the Commission's finding within the local churches varied. At the beginning of, while some church entities and church authorities demonstrate a clear commitment to safeguarding, others are only at the beginning of undertaking the church's responsibility. Nasa simula pa lang ang karamihan. At times, the Commission found a troubling lack of reporting structures and victim survivor accompaniment services as required by the motu proprio Vos Estis Lux Mundi. You know, in my assessment, personal assessment, is the same here in the Philippines. In 2018, I started proposing a reporting system, a publicly accessible reporting system. I remember one sister raised her hand, Father, are you sure you want to do that? And I told myself, no, I'm not sure. Are you ready? No, I'm not ready. And I remember telling the office, are we ready? The office said, Father, we're not ready. Yeah, we are not. but we have to. And then we ended up not implementing. 2018. Then Boss Estes Lux Moody came out requiring us to have a publicly accessible reporting system. So that gave us a push. But we need more push. Many are saying that they have a publicly accessible reporting system. But when you ask them, do the people know? Yes, it's public. It's on Facebook. And then when you check the Facebook, only 5 likes. So it's not really even promoted or publicized. So the people do not know. And that is the first requirement of the guideline, which is, okay? So, for us, the religious orders, the Commission has noted that religious orders and their superiors are not included in the traditional ad limina process, nor is there an analogous process written into Canada for religious life. Therefore, in addition to the Commission's review process to the ad limina visits, the Commission also selects several religious orders each year to bring into focus. So there were 2. Okay, and the methodology for evaluating religious life follows much the same process as for the Episcopal conferences, including 1 safeguarding guideline review process. So that will be part of the audit. And the furnishing of a questionnaire to conduct a mapping of safeguarding activities and structures. I think that's part of what you're receiving. We're trying to map. So the Commission especially knows the importance of a dedicated channel for reviewing and reporting on the religious orders because of their transnational nature. So the first 2 congregations that were audited were Consolata Missionary Sisters and Congregation of the Holy Spirit. The Commission's findings within the local churches varied. While some church entities and church authorities demonstrate a clear commitment to safeguarding, others are only at the beginning of undertaking the church's responsibility regarding the occurrence of abuse. At times, the Commission found a troubling lack of reporting structures and victim-survivor accompanyment. I think I mentioned this already earlier. So that is what we lack. At least the ones they audited. But I am sure the same report that will be highlighted, I have the feeling, also in the Philippines. Okay? Safeguarding policies and procedures of the Roman period service of the local church. Well, the Commission notes that as a network of networks, the Roman Curia can uniquely serve as a hub for sharing good practices. Okay, that will be their, one of their roles in safeguarding its service to the local churches. The Commission aims to promote a common vision and to collect reliable information in order to foster a higher degree of transparency in the Roman Curia's procedures and jurisprudence with regard to individual cases of clerical abuse. And the purpose of this is to communicate the different safeguarding responsibilities of the various dicasteries. So many times we are still at a loss. Sino ba in charge? Where to send? And how is the process? So we're still learning the ropes of how. And promote the development of shared safeguarding standards across the Roman period. We should have some, common standard and facilitate an all-out government approach to safeguarding. All of us together on this one. And disseminate trauma-informed and victim-survivor-centered approaches to dicasterial work. And so, one thing that they found out, I would like to highlight, is a persistent concern regarding the transparency in the Roman Curia's procedures and juridical processes. It seemed like that they want to have a better networking collaboration, this Pontifical Commission, and the dicasteries, in sharing of the data, at least. They want more of transparency in that area. Why? Because the Commission knows that this will continue to foment distrust among the faithful, especially the victim survivor community, because of that lack of transparency, according to the Commission, in the Roman period. Let me skip this one. That's just the memorandum initiative at the Holy Father's request, more of how we can create more report assistance to local churches and capacitate them a network of safeguarding processes, and local safeguarding formation for everyone. I will be highlighting that also later. Okay, and some of the challenges that they reported: delays in processing cases, lack of resources, which I'm also seeing in the Philippines, both human and financial. I'm not sure if financial, I think maybe we have enough. I don't know. But human resources, yeah. Prioritization of the church's reputation over victim survivor support. I am seeing this. In fact, in my engagement with some superiors and bishops, they are worried. How will the people look at us if this comes out to the media? Not exactly those same words, but more or less you can sense that is what they are trying to say. Online, lack of cultural sensitization to the phenomenon of abuse, online abuse, and lack of comprehensive measures to integrate it in faster safeguarding activities. Now, we are encountering a surge risk, an increase of incidents of abuse happening online. So this is another area that we need to look into. Risk in climate change, clericalism, which are very much aware, alcohol and drug abuse. I'm seeing this is one of the major problems also, at least among the clergy. I don't know with the sisters. Do you have problems with alcohol, sisters? Wala naman. Among the clergy, I'm seeing this. And we have found the link of alcohol to abuse. There is a link. Okay. And to emotional dysregulation, there is a link. And how the alcohol shrinks the brain. Yeah. And because it shrinks the brain, no wonder they are having a hard time controlling their behaviors. That's why I'm emphasizing this in our human formation, yes, clergy, on how they can prevent alcohol. And there should be a more systemic approach to this problem because it's also cultural. Right? When you go, especially in the islands, it's something very, very common. When I went to Bohol and do house visitation, they will serve me alcohol as merienda. That was a long time ago. I don't know. Local people, ordinary people, father snacks. Then you bring beer. And I see that many are really into that. It's during that time. I don't know. But I'm still seeing some pattern. Okay? So, these are some. If you want to have a deeper understanding of all of these, you just download them. They are available. It's available on your website. Okay? I don't know if you remember this. I presented this. Maybe some of you were there. I was asking, where are we now in creating a culture of safeguarding? This was my first take in assessing where we are. This happened in 2018. This was in 2018 or 2022. So doing nothing, there is no safeguarding policy, and I'm seeing that there are still congregations and dioceses they don't have yet. If one does exist, it likely exists only on paper. I see this a lot. They have them, but they are collecting dust. They are not being implemented. Community members do not openly discuss the issue in formal settings. They are very quiet. They don't want to talk about it. The first time I talked about this in 2018 with 500 participants, mostly clergy. I remember that time. The moderator made an announcement. All lay people go out of the room. All lay people go. Because during that time, this is something still that we are not comfortable to talk about. Right? And then, no Facebook, please, no taking of pictures. And then, okay, after that was announced, okay, let's welcome Father John. He will be talking about safeguarding. That was, I think, my first experience, which I completely understand. Because during that time, it was really a challenge to be more open about it. And during the minimum requirement, there is an established safeguarding policy, that's the minimum requirement, and the community actively implements it. All members, including active lay leaders and potential victims, receive training in safeguarding. I believe that is the minimum requirement. The needs of the victims are given top priority. I believe that is the minimum requirement. and the community adheres to the requirements of Vos Estis Lux Mundi. Going beyond, I don't know if this is still accurate, but I would just like to present it to you. Of course, the minimum requirements have all been fulfilled. The community promptly reports cases of sexual abuse to civil authorities. This is still, I think, not happening. No? Very, very rare, I would like to say. And the community actively participates in providing pastoral care for the healing of victims. I think this one now should go to the minimum requirement. This last item. Okay? So, as a conference, we have come up with 4 commissions. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we've met several times. We invited some of your sisters and your fathers to come, and there were a good number who came in the beginning, and then over the years, Father, resign na po ako. Why? What happened? I will be transferred. Okay, so we take your place. I don't know. I will find another one. Those are the common challenges we were encountering. Anyway, so we created 4. I don't know when we started this one. I think it was during the pandemic. Prevention, protection, investigation, restoration. The goal was to bring all our resources together. What you are doing, what is already existing, the things that you do in terms of safeguarding, maybe we can all come together and organize. So that's why there were those who joined the prevention. The prevention is mainly tasked to create modules for training and how we can have mandated training to all our members, church leaders, and even ordinary people and young people. That was the goal. That was the idea. If you want to go nationwide, that will require a lot of work on our part. That's why several congregations joined forces here. Next, protection. Those who have assigned them centers for the victims. Okay? All of you, come together. If I remember it right, the Daughters of Charity, Good Shepherd, Salvatorian Sisters, I don't know the others, but more or less, they're the ones that stuck in my mind. And investigation. Those who are interested in helping out in investigation, in the work of investigation. And restoration, dedicated to facilitating the healing process for both victims and perpetrators. And I am seeing this one a big problem also because many of the victims, particularly those from far-flung areas, they don't know where to go. In Metro Manila, we're already having problems because our professionals are lacking. If you are, even among guidance counselors in schools, you've heard, the government is having problems with the supply of guidance counselors and even registered psychologists. So very, very few. So we really need to multiply so that we can serve this population. We had a meeting with Archbishop Lavarias, who happens to be the outgoing head of the Commission for the Protection of Minors in Pampanga. So these are the members, well, some of them, before Commission. So we had an initial meeting. So now let me present you the challenges that we are experiencing. Some of the major challenges, and hopefully we as a body can do something about this. Okay, we need you. We need to work together. And maybe there are other challenges, but so far, at least in my summary, these are the things that we really need to work on. And once again, I will use the UGF as a framework to guide my presentation of these challenges and the actions that we need to take. So dear superiors, let me read, as leaders, your public commitment is the first safeguard. When you visibly speak, act, and allocate resources for safeguarding, you create a culture of accountability and trust. Without public commitment, policies remain invisible, and survivors remain unheard. Guideline number 1 talk about our public commitment. Can we make it public? And number 1, common challenges, let me enumerate them. 1, no safeguarding policies exist in some congregations. And when they do exist, they are poorly implemented. I've seen this a lot. Okay, not only among congregations, but also dioceses. And in Universal Framework Guideline number 6, policies and procedures document how the church is safe for children and vulnerable adults. We are being required, every church body, to have safeguarding policies that are anchored in gospel values and aligned with the UGM, the 10 guidelines. Are clear, accessible. These policies should be accessible to the community and developed with stakeholder input. Okay, now they're starting to talk about stakeholders having an input on this one. Have monitoring and support mechanisms for proper implementation. And actively involve survivors in policy development and evaluation. I don't think we are in that level already. But the Pontifical Commission, of course, they are already following they are doing the lead now, so that we will follow. And according to Universal Framework Guideline number 3, accompaniment to victims and survivors, their families and communities affected by abuse is prioritized. Let me highlight the word prioritize. And the church body actively reaches out to engage with the church community in safeguarding efforts. I believe, in my experience, in our investigation work, we are very poor in this area, in reaching out to them. Okay. In fact, when we try to revisit what happened to so-and-so, we don't know anymore. Okay. So the guideline encourages collaboration with survivors and communities to ensure policies are not only written, they are not only written, but also responsive and practical. That is the call of this guideline number 3 as to this challenge number 1. Okay? And Universal Framework Guideline number 10, the church regularly reviews and improves its systems for safeguarding children and adults. Ensure safeguarding policies are regularly reviewed. Go back to your policies, sisters, fathers. Do you regularly review them? Self-assess and independently audited. I remember the first time in 2018, I was requesting if we can have something like an audit system. I remember that during that time, but it didn't happen. Okay? That's why we need CBCP, we need to work with them. Come October, we will continue to emphasize this one. We started doing it already with Archbishop Navarias, but since he's already exiting, and the new one is, you know the new one? Bishop Dennis of Bulacan. Prevents policies from being on paper only by requiring ongoing evaluation and transparent reporting. Okay? So, the Pontifical reached out to me already and asking me, Father John, can we do this every year? So I will help them with the data. And I said, though it's a lot of work, I said, yes, okay. I have to do it also, so that we can help the church. So guideline number 10. Challenge number 2, no publicly accessible reporting system. If we have, it's not enough. Some had in their policy that they will have a help desk. When I visited them again and asked, how is your help desk? Oh, nothing happened. Nothing happened. But it was on paper. Okay. So, I am seeing this also a lot. So, to respond to that, We can be guided by guideline number 4. Procedures for raising concerns and complaints are responsive, accessible, and understood by children, adults, families, parents, communities, and personnel. So that would mean calls for clear, transparent, and accessible procedures for reporting abuse. We have that. No? In fact, no, I was in talks with a lawyer. I didn't know that we are already required to post something like a requirement of sexual harassment. On sexual harassment, you have to have like a poster where a number to call. We are required by law to post them on the web. Anyway, so indicators require that complaint processes are easy to understand, publicly communicated, and free of conflicts of interest. Okay? Number 3, lack of human resources causes victims of sexual abuse. Some bishops were asking, how can we help the victims and survivors? We don't have any licensed psychologists around, or even counselors. And so what happens? Their own priests will be the one to visit the victims and survivors. And that sometimes is not advisable. Okay. Especially if they are not trained on how to listen, or in trauma-informed counseling. It will do more harm than good. And I've seen that. Some victims complaining, we don't want to engage with the diocese anymore. And then when I further asked why, because there were 2 old men who came here, and that's what the words, not just quoting them. There were 2 old men who came here and started interrogating us. It felt like we were criminals. But at the back of my mind, I was thinking, they mean well. These 2 men, it just so happened that I think they are not trained to do it. No? They were trained to extract data, but not to connect it and empathize, which is the first thing that they should do. And they are in a hurry to get that data in one sitting. You have to establish a relationship first before you get that. And of course, they are not trained to do that, so we have more problems. Okay? Guideline number 3 would be a good guideline for this one, accompaniment to victim survivors. Why? It will require access to skilled. Guideline number 3 is very explicit on this one. Access to skilled trauma-informed professionals. But as I said, we have a problem. We have a lack of professionals in our country. Okay, so understandable, no? What do we do now? And calls for holistic support, counseling, spiritual assistance, and reparation. One time, survivor requested me, Father, I want to meet my perpetrator, my victimizer. I got so nervous when I heard that. But I made sure first, are you ready? Father, I'm ready. I want this to happen. Okay, but I have to make sure that the perpetrator is ready. Because the perpetrator already he admitted to the abuse. And then when I met him, I asked him, Father, are you ready? He wants to meet me. John, before I die, I want this to happen. So I said, okay, Father, can I ask what will you do when you meet? I just say sorry. Nothing more, nothing less. So I felt comfortable. So finally, we were already setting the victim. And then the victim called me up. Father, I have another request. What? That my mother should be around. The more I got nervous and tense. Okay, then I went back to the perfect Father. He has one request again. What? The mother should be there. You should apologize only to the mother. Are you really? I said, yes, I can do that. And then it happened. For two weeks, I remember, my anxiety is very high. I could not sleep. I will be facilitating the process. and I'm not sure how we will turn out. And then I asked also the superior to come and join because that's also part of the request. And finally, we went to the house, the victim was there, the priest perpetrator was there, the superior, and then the mother was there. It was really a very tense moment, but I tried to compose myself. I did a lot of mindfulness exercises. And then finally, I started the process. You know what? It turned out so beautiful. Everybody was crying, and the victim, the survivor, even cried and hugged the perpetrator. And then when I was going back home, driving, I was telling myself, I was crying when I was driving. I was telling myself, Lord, thank you. But that took 5 years. 5 years. That case that I handled took me 5 years. Anyway, we hope that can be achieved. Okay? And another guideline that can guide this challenge, people working with children and adults are suitable, informed of their obligations, supervise, and support them to reflect safeguarding values in practice. So what the guidelines say that we have to ensure proper recruitment. Training. Training is so important. Okay. So far what's happening now is that training becomes voluntary. I think it's about time, high time, that it's mandatory. A requirement for employees. A requirement before you start your ministry. A requirement before you visit homes and do your pastoral work. I think it's high time that we do that. An appointment of safeguarding persons. Challenge number 4, poor handling of sexual abuse cases. I've seen this also. Guideline number 3 again, can speak for that because it also outlines victim-centered, timely, and transparent handling of allegations. One case that we handled was that a victim survivor told me, Father, what happened? Why? Why is he now celebrating Mass on Facebook? We complained. What did happen? So I was shocked. And I started contacting the superiors. A complaint is being raised. And then the superior said, no, we already did the process. We did whatever is needed to be done. We reported it to the Curia, and then the Bureau responded back. But the missing link was the victims and survivors were not part of the process. So, again, something is wrong with the process that we need to also look into, and that is transparency. How they can be informed. That's why the document also speaks of regularly updating them. Regularly updating them. So far, in some of the cases that we handled, many were not informed. Okay? So they just get to know that, he's already there. He's already sent somewhere. Right? Because they just saw it on Facebook. Emphasizes confidentiality, risk assessments, and fairness to both survivors and accused. Okay? Also, guideline number 10, it will require ongoing audits and reviews to prevent repeated failures. And part of the review is risk assessment. You check why did it happen, what was in the environment, what triggered the abuse, why it's still happening in spite of the policies, and policies were transmitted and relayed to everyone. So somebody should do that assessment as well so that we can further improve our policies. Okay? Challenge number 5, lack of safeguarding training for church leaders and personnel. Many are assigned immediately to this job without proper training. Many. Some, for example, you had an experience, you were trained as canon lawyer, then you ended up also the interviewer. Or you ended up counseling also. So there is a mismatch of training. Okay, that's why we need also to look into that. Personnel are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and awareness. So that would, guideline number 8 mandates regular safeguarding training for all of us. Regular. It doesn't mean that if you had it once, after 5 years is the next one. Make it regular. Ensures clergy and staff understand this UGF, civil and canon law, obligations, safeguarding policies, and pastoral responses. In fact, there are many areas where we can have training on safeguarding. That's why making it regular, hindi tayo maubusan ng topic. Okay? To keep us reminded. Particularly those who are in the position of the committee, like safeguarding committee. If you're part of the committee, we need to do more updating and formation on this one so we can better serve our communities, especially the victims and survivors. Number 6, lack of skills and competence in conducting investigation. I mentioned this earlier already. I want just to highlight this one. Okay. Yes, this is a big problem. Really a big problem. And whatever is written there, the document there, that's the one transmitted to Rome. And I'm sure the QS also trying to check that. But I don't know as to how much checking or how they are done. As I was telling you, this is a sensitive matter. You cannot do this just in one sitting. Especially if the victim or survivor of course, traumatized, so it will take time to trust you. And more so, if it's a priest who abused the child, and then you send another priest, they might experience some counter-transference and transference, so that is a long process to take. That's why the first thing I ask when they are requesting for an investigator or other, does the victim or perpetrator would like a priest? Or a sister, or a lady? That's the first thing I ask. Because some would not like another priest doing that. Because the issue will be projected on it. Okay? So, the guideline number 7 can be a guide to this one because we are now being required for training, supervision, and accountability to safeguarding roles. Okay? Guideline number 8 also ensures specialized training for those tasked with investigation. And complaint handling. Who are the people going to receive? If you have a hotline, who are the ones receiving the complaint? I have problems when I ask one group, okay, now you have a policy. Where do they complain? To me, Father. Okay. To what number? To my number, my cell phone number. I have a problem with that. Okay. And only you, only me. So we will have more issues after that. And the one receiving the complaint is a priest also. So again, we need more also trained people on how to receive calls. So I understand when we identify CMSP as the reporting system, as the place for reporting, they were telling me, Father, we're not ready, which is correct. Because we need professionals to receive calls. And number 7, congregation representatives and safeguarding commissions will stay long and not full time. I don't know. This is my request, fathers, sisters. I think this is a big task. We need to prioritize it. So I appeal to you. Let's do something about this one. Okay, how we can have more people working on this one, and not after a year we change again, 2 years change. Okay. And many of them, they are only doing it on the side, not really their priority. In fact, also me, it is not my priority. My superior did not assign me in this job. I volunteered since 2018. He did not assign you. Good thing they are not telling you get out of that. Get away, don't work anymore in safeguard. At least they are supportive of my work. But I'm sure not many of those who joined in this group don't have that luxury. Okay? So, guideline number 7 calls for consistent appointment, adequate supervision, and long-term mentorship. Highlights the need for stability, personal, and proper formation of those assigned safeguarding commission. Because if we train them, definitely, it's hard to train another one again. It will take more time. So at least. So in summary, here are my recommended actions for us as we work together. How we can establish accessible reporting systems. How we can help one another. And I have a proposal later. Strengthen victim survivor support. Improve case handling and accountability. Provide regular safeguard information. Develop competence in investigations. Ensure stability in safeguarding commissions. Develop and implement congregational safeguarding policies. And foster a culture of collaboration and mutual support. And I believe that the first output that we had will be able to respond to these recommendations. So we want again, when we met last time on different congregations, and we agreed on these 4 commissions, we will be able to respond to all of these challenges. Okay? Prevention, we take care of the training. Protection can take charge of the reporting system. Because I know many of the sisters' asylum centers, you have social workers there. Trained social workers. They can be the ones to receive calls. And you can share your number to all of us. And even to the dioceses. I hope Sister will allow. So when we do our work, when we work with CBCP, we can tell them, bishops, if you want, we can also part one of the reporting systems of your diocese. Because we, for example, in Cebu, those who have sisters who are here, and you have a protection center, people can call you. Okay? One time, one diocese told me, Father, that's good, publicly accessible. Can you appear on TV Maria? Wait. Okay, we can do that. However, I threw back, I returned the challenge to it. Make sure that you have a reporting system in place already. You have people. Because you know what will happen? If people see me on TV, I will be the one receiving calls. And that happened to me already. And it's happening. And when my name is posted on Facebook, randomly, somewhere from out there, we contact me, Father John. I was sexually abused. I had several cases already. See, I have not even yet made myself really visible to the public. Okay? So, when I told that to TV Maria, I don't know what happened next. But we should have a group to handle it. Investigation, of course, the group can help. So if you need investigators, more objective with training, hopefully we will do more training. We started already training last year. We will continue that, and we hope to make it more often. Training more. We are preparing that. So in the future we can have more trained investigators. And of course, restoration. We hope to have more counselors, psychologists who can help in the healing process of all our victims and survivors. By the way, just because of this, I started engaging with Anderson University because they have a clinical psychology there. I started talking with the administration. I said, I talked to the president because anyway we own the school. He said, can you do something about this? Maybe I think we need to train more priests and religions. So now we have 2 tracks in Adamson, one the general track, one for priests and religions. So the context will be more of our context. That's why I'll be more active there teaching teaching fathers and sisters. We have 8 enrolled priests now. We announced this just last July. So we are seeing the need. So we hope to have more professionals in the field so we can help in this undertaking. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father John. I'm sure all of our participants were able to ponder on some of the profound questions you have posed to them this afternoon. Now, we have time for several questions. Kindly raise your hands and identify yourself. Before giving your questions, your comments, your hopefully not violent reactions. Anyone from the floor? Father Bolo.
Good afternoon, everyone. The information is very important, but I am still interested in the practical matters. For example, when I was talking about the school, I was talking about benchmarking. In my congregation, we come up what we call the red document, and that is about the ethical aspect in our syllabus. Chapter 1 is about the psychological effect, and the other one is the jurisprudence and canonical. The information, as I said, is very important, but we are still in the prevention or the protection. I am much interested in the investigation because we do not know how to proceed. Each congregations, we have our own policy. I do not know if the CBCP or the experts can come together and study the possibility to come up with a single document on what to do when the case is already happening in the congregation. I am talking about the steps. Example, if the case is in an internal forum, that means only the provincial and the victimizer are the one involved, not it, or only within the congregation. That's perhaps step 1. What about if the case is already in public, where the victim, she or he went already to inform the bishop? What shall the congregation do? I am looking for the steps. What shall we do if these cases will happen to us? And what will be the opportune time to approach our lawyer? Because I know that in the very beginning, we don't need to approach the lawyer. Many of the congregations, if not dioceses, we are still in the process of settlement. Settlement because we do not know how to proceed. Many of our superiors, we do not know. That's why, if we have a document that will give us the steps on how to proceed the case, the question of, shall we say, the one that is being portrayed, the question of the temporary presence, for example, the person is being replaced, would not be a problem. Why? Because we have a common document. Perhaps all the religious congregations will come together and share the best practices that we have and our experiences of how we combat this kind of problem in the congregation, and to come up with, as I said, the practical orientations on how to proceed. So that's my question. If we already have.
Just for information, that's one of the major reasons why we are now reaching out to CBCP. In fact, every time I talk with Father Edgar, who happens to be the Executive Secretary, I am always motivating Father, the CBCP should be on top of everything. And to do that, part of your how we can disseminate best practices, and definitely we are in the process of learning po tayo lahat. Some are fast-paced, some are more advanced, others are still lagging. That's why we need to share our learnings with one another. That's why the groups who came, the congregations who met last time to come up with the 4 commissions, that is our goal. How we can, if you, Father, if you can send anyone that needs to be part of one commission, in that case, that will be more for the prevention. These steps, as to how we can implement the Biennial in our own context also. Yeah, and as I said, this will require really training, and the audit reports somehow by the Political Commission recognize that gap that we all need on this one. So we need to have more trained canon lawyers on this one, more trained counselors, more trained on trauma-informed counseling, etc. So far, if we can talk together, you have representatives from each one. We hope to move forward and how we can meet regularly and plan out our next steps. And at the same time, work with CBCP. We are already in touch with Bishop Dennis, who will take over this December. And I'm sure after the October conference, there will be more actions and recommendations that we will hear. And we will have more concrete lines of action that we need to take so that we can move forward. Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father John. Any more questions? Maybe we have time for 1 or 2 more.
Sister.
Sister Mary Ignatius.
Father, I'll take the opportunity to ask, because you're an expert. In our recent general chapter, we approved the congregational safeguarding policy, but it's under the big direction of culture of care, creating a culture of care. And that part of which is the prevention against abuse of power, abuse of financial abuse, spiritual abuse, etc. So it's quite big,
Yeah.
other than the sexual abuse. No? So we're now, the ball is on our court as province, and our province is composed of 4 countries, that's Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. And that I'm really trying to benchmark with other congregations here how to go about our steps to align. And this, of course, the safeguarding and sexual abuse, but it's a bigger scope that we want to address. So I'd like to hear from you.
First thing is, you can download the UGF, and they have indicators there. And the indicators are very concrete. That's why the Political Commission is requiring us to align our safeguarding policies to the UGF. In fact, if you go and download it, you will see concrete things that we are looking for. And these indicators are best practices that they have, committed. And as concrete as making a public statement. Concrete as that, you will find it here. And I'm sure this is where we are being audited, these indicators. There are several criteria. As you can see, I just summarized many of them. In fact, all of them, I just summarized it. But it's easy reading, so that you will know how you can align your safeguarding policy. Like, there are many items there. Very, very concrete. And I'm glad that you have a comprehensive this, not only zeroing into sexual abuse, but of course, in this context, in our presentation today, we are highlighting this one for the simple reason that this is really a big issue we are facing as a church, and how we can be more responsive so that we will be able to address this problem.
Thank you, Father John. Maybe 1 more question from the floor. Anyone?
Pag-gusto na. Dumagdag pa ako.
Sige, if there are no more questions, we would like to call on Father Greg and Mother Cecil to present a small token of our appreciation to Father John. Now, of course, like what I heard you did several days ago, we will be having an assignment, some points for reflection. Can we please flash it on the screen? So we will have two questions. The questions are also on the Google Drive. You have to click on the link. But the questions are, number one, based on your own reflections, how can the CMSP strengthen its shared commitment to safeguarding in concrete ways? That's the first question. The second question is, how can your congregation or your institute build a lived culture of safeguarding? Now, I think you have groups of 5, but Father Greg and Father Angel were thinking maybe would you prefer to do it individually or would you prefer to do it in groups?
Groups.
Okay, so we have until what time, Father? So we have until 5:30. Sorry, there's another set of questions for this, another question for this morning session from Professor Magnus Bock. The question is, how can CMSP respond prophetically to corruption and weak governance? How about in your own congregations? So 3 questions for your group work. It's already 4:54. Okay, so we will be calling on okay, there's a slight change in plans. Before we go to the group work, we will be having a short presentation on the Catholic Care for Children Philippines.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Since I'm not introduced, may I introduce myself. So I am Sister Maria Socorro Pilar Evidente, Daughter of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. And with me are the officers of the Catholic Care for Children Philippines. Sister Gina, Maria Gina Nara, representing Region 4A, Regional Coordinator, and Sister Michelle Marie Aricel, representing Mindanao. Okay. So, we just, the reason why we are given a chance by Sister Mother Cecilia to address you is because during our latest, when we founded the Catholic Care for Children Philippines in January 2025, there were only 26 congregations who attended the training and therefore are already members of the Catholic Care for Children. So we are appealing this convention. If there are still other religious congregations who are running orphanages or child-caring homes, this is an association for you. Because I'll give you a little background about the project of the Union of International Superiors General in Manila. By the way, I am the country director of the Philippines. That's why I am here before you. So the Union of International Superiors General in Rome has a special project for us, religious congregations. They have what they call Catholic Care for Children International. It is headed by Sister Mary Niluka Pereira of the RGS congregation from Sri Lanka. So, the Catholic Care for Children, hindi ko na yan is a visionary initiative led by Catholic sisters to ensure that children grow up in safe, nurturing families. The project aims to support existing Catholic Care for Children initiatives and extend this initiative globally. The project was founded by the Union of International Superiors General in 2020 with a vision, a family for every child. Sacred scripture and scientific research affirm that children grow best in families, visioning that a child's well-being and development is best supported in a family or family-like context. Our project, therefore, is committed to global expansion of the Catholic Care for Children movement, which started in Uganda, Zambia, and Kenya. Now, I think the Philippines is the peak. So, there is already Catholic Care for Children Uganda, Catholic Care for Children Zambia, Catholic Care for Children Kenya, and then Sri Lanka, and Philippines. So, we are the fifth to be organized. So, the aim is to help religious institutes with the charism of care to read the signs of the times and to provide the best care possible for children and vulnerable persons by reducing recourse to institutional care and encouraging family and community-based care for children. So I will go now to our own vision mission as Catholic Care for Children Philippines. As I said, we were formed in January 9, 2025. Actually, UISG CCCI has been giving online trainings. However, the training is 8 to 10 in the evening for the Philippines. So despite all their invitation, I think they invited also some congregations, not only the daughters received the invitation. But despite that, only one RGS and 8 of us daughters of charity graduated from the online program, which consisted of 8 weeks, where every week we have something to read online, the text, the course, and then every Wednesday evening from 8 to 10, we have live discussion. That's it. Every Wednesday we have live discussions for 8 Wednesdays before we graduated and got our certificate for moving towards family solutions. So the course that UISG CCCI offered to all religious congregations running orphanages and child caring homes was moving towards family solutions. That's the title. And of course, I also had been administrator of Hospicio de San Jose for 17 years. And as I was listening to the online teachings and reading the content online, I had a lot of mea culpas. Because I realized we really took for granted. We just received the children to the institution because the daughters of charity have long been taking care of hungries. And now it's not anymore called an orphanage because there are many children who are not orphans. They have families. But because of poverty and because they are endorsed to us, we receive them without, really knowing much. So, with all the mea culpas, we learned a lot from the online. So I told Sister Mary Niluka, because from From finishing the course, there was another course. The title is A Family for Every Child, which we attended again for 8 weeks and 8 Wednesdays. After that, some of us had to be trained as facilitators, and we experienced facilitating the online course for other. This is a mixed group, by the way, online, participated in by all countries, especially third world countries who are running orphanages. Again, because there were only a few Philippine sisters, and Sister Melanie Luca was saying there are more than 100 orphanages, sister, in the Philippines. How come kayo lang nag-attend? Okay? So I challenge Sister Melanie Luca. Sister, you want to get hold of the sisters, how can you get hold of them at 8 to 10? So at the end of the online, we're the ones saying good night. Our sisters are already asleep. We're the only ones awake. Okay, so maputi sila yan, they are earlier, no? Philippines talagang pinakalas sa time zone, 8 to 10 in the evening. So I said, so why don't you come to the Philippines? Face-to-face encounter. We will recruit the sisters. We will go through the whole Philippines to see whom to invite. But of course, it was still hard for the sisters who decided to. Of course, I did a lot of research online with the addresses and superiors to be contacted. Anyway, what happened is it was still online in terms of the sisters reading the course. No? But instead of they meeting every Wednesday night for live discussion, the team from US and Rome came here for a face-to-face training with the sisters who were very dedicated and serious to finish their 8-week course, reading it. So thanks be to God, there were 26 congregations and around 60 sisters who are now members of the Catholic Care for Children last January. But because the online course continues and the sisters who attended already realized the importance of their social workers, their lay staff to understand why we have to move children past families, they also encourage their social workers and other sisters in their child-caring homes to attend still the online. So there was still, the one last January was cohort number 9, there was still cohort number 10 and cohort number 11. So I think our membership now is around 70. But again, as I go through the list of child-caring agencies in the whole Philippines, there are still many. So maybe towards the end of this evening, before we go home, actually the sisters here are here because we had a safeguarding training 2 days, September 1 and 2 in Asilo de la Milagrosa. This is a free training for all member congregations. So as you will see later on, the privileges that your congregation as member of the Catholic Care for Children is that you will continuously have trainings to become more and more caring for children and really finding ways and means to bring them to families as soon as possible. So let me go through our mission as Catholic Care for Children Philippines. So we almost like adopted CCCI International. We envision a world where every child grows up in a nurturing family environment. And our mission is to assist religious congregations to reduce institutionalization of children and to transition them to family and community-based care. By the way, the institutionalization has long been, actually they said, will the government cooperate? They said, definitely DSWD is for deinstitutionalization. The longer the children stay in the child caring homes, they will not accredit you. They will not license you. They are monitoring how long the children stay. So I said, there's no problem with the cooperation of the government. We just really have to help the sisters how to do it. No? So we ensure that religious congregations providing residential care for children is able to move towards family or family-like care. So our objectives is to heighten awareness, understanding, and participation among religious congregations to the call of moving towards family solutions. So by the way, the CCCI is asking us only to focus first on Catholic religious congregations. It can also include the men, because we have seen also from the list of the SWP, there are child caring homes run by diocesan and religious clergy. That's why I told Sister Cecil if we can have also the men around, no? So that you understand what we are espousing for. And then, so we will heighten awareness by consistent training of those who would like to be trained to understand how to move children towards family solutions, to capacitate our stakeholders and collaborators of member congregations in advancing child care reforms, adapting to the family and community-based approaches. So we will be conducting training to your social workers, to the staff, to the sisters who are running the orphanages, to help them, to capacitate them to advance children towards family solutions or community-based approaches. Third is to collaborate with local and national government institutions, non-government organizations, and other agencies for policy reforms. So we have to influence also NGOs or local government units or national government organizations for reforms regarding, by the way, last January, towards the end of our sessions, we called on the DSWD officials to be there so we can dialogue with them with all these standards that they are giving us. So they are happy that we have this movement to really facilitate child care, children to go to families. And then resource mobilization, such as fund support towards family strengthening services. I was glad I saw Conrad Hilton a while ago here. Actually, Conrad Hilton, the Fund for Sisters, will really support this endeavor. I already received an assurance of that. To establish a baseline data of programs and services provided by member congregations for planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of reforms. So we will be creating a baseline of the programs and services of all the member institutions and agencies of the member congregations, so that once a year during the annual assembly, we will really have a monitoring of how many children they have returned to families so far. So actually last night we spent a lot of time having some questions answered about the sisters who were around regarding particular cases. So now our focus really is, we have the list of our children and then we really study each one. Kung ito, adoption ba ito? Kung adoption ito, paano mapapabilis counting adoption? Ito ba pwede mabalik sa relative? Kung hindi pwede mabalik sa relative, o ito yung nanay, naku, hirap, mga ganyan. So, actually, you might ask a question, no? How about children who are not in safe environments, since we are talking about safeguarding? So, of course, hindi bilang dito ang mga abused children. Pag abused child dyan, custody immediately yan, rescue agad dyan. No? Pero, ay tupulin pa din ang agency o yung child caring home to facilitate looking for alternative families. so that they don't stay long also. But of course, rehabilitation, restorative counseling has to be done before returning an abused child to another family. So those are considered naman, especially if the family environment is not only sexually abusive, because there's incest, but also physically abusive. So, case to case po yan. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na lahat na lang hindi ko kunin. Pero sa amin kasi, na graduates ng Catholic Care for Children, we practice what we call gatekeeping. Gatekeeping. So when a mother comes with children, 3 to 4 children, and because of poverty, they want to put their child into the institution, we try really to assess very well. Instead of institutionalizing the children, we look into what support do you need. You need a house? You will look for sponsors, so you have a house. You need education for the children, we will support. So we call that family support services for those who are going to be not admitted. So after thorough assessment, we practice gatekeeping and decide whether we will admit into the institution. And once we admit into the institution, because the environment is not safe, and we really need to attend to them first, we have also to work fast to reunify them by strengthening the family. So, family strengthening is for those who are being reunified. Kaya, it has already been, I will not give you a lecture here, of course, but it has already been proven by research that there is less money entailed for family support and family strengthening services rather than supporting the child in the institution. Residential care expenses is higher than supporting the family for whatever they need so that they can take care of their children. Pero hindi lang isang bata sa institusyon na natutulungan, buong pamilya ang tutulungan. So, brainwash po kami dyan, so sorry na lang kayo. That's what we learned from our studies. So next, so this is our organizational chart. Thank you that Sister Cecilia is still around because Sister Cecilia was the one who welcomed us. So we have our Board of Trustees and then the CMSP, of course, we are working hand in hand. Sister Cecilia was very helpful to give us the list of congregations who were running orphanages, so it was easy for us to contact them. And then, of course, we are accountable to UISG, CCCI. And they train us. So, lately, there was a training in Sri Lanka, and 2 of our officers attended the training. Then, under the Board of Trustees, we have regional coordinators, sisters who are for Luzon. Since Luzon is big, we have a coordinator for Bicol, for Region 4A, Region 3, Region NCR, we have 2 coordinators, and then we have Visayas, Western, Central, Eastern Visayas, and then we have regional coordinator from Mindanao. And of course, the members per region. Okay, so that's our organizational chart. So what are our policies and procedures? Hindi pa ito masyadong ano. By the way pala, we are still in the process of having our SEC registration. We are still waiting for the startup fund from Rome to help us to, register the organization in SEC. So member congregations and their child caring agencies are only considered official members if they have completed a Moving Towards Family Solutions course. Okay. So we will be offering that again next year once we are able to identify ilan pa mga congregations ang gusto magpa-training. We will be offering training. Meanwhile, we are capacitating our members, especially our officers, to become trainers so that we are already allowed, by the way, before we were not allowed to do face-to-face training. But now, we are allowed to do it in the Philippines. We don't need anymore to go online. to get the training. But we will start that next year kasi siguro. So we're still waiting for some funds to be able to do this. And then of course, application form. And then we have a membership fee of 500 pesos. So if, for example, the congregation has 5 child-caring agencies, so it is per agency. But if they have only one, it's per congregation. Then attendance to mandatory trainings with certificates. So we already have this September, our first training, which is not mandatory actually, because it was just offered. I just told the member congregations that you can send your sisters, even if they are not running the agencies, but because you are a member congregation, you can send your sisters to the safeguarding training. And we had 33 yesterday here in Silo Milagrosa, from Visayas and Mindanao. On Monday, Tuesday, we will have safeguarding training for member congregations and their staff in Manila, in the provincial house of the DC. So those are perks, sabi ko nga sa kanya, perks ni class member congregation, because we will be looking for funding for continuous training so that we capacitate na the social workers, the sisters running the centers, on how they can hasten the moving towards families. Now, baka may mga questions po kayo. Kasama po sa alternative care na yan is adoption, return to the biological family, becoming strengthening services, or relative kin care, or foster care, or ano tawag ito, independent living. So, yung mga older children na, we try to prepare them for independent living or group homes. These are alternative care. Kaya kanina nakalagay, family life environment. So, kung di talaga pwede makalik sa pamilya, at least family life environment. So, that's a good question. Ano? Thank you, sister, for allowing us to explain. We will be passing a piece of paper, sisters, Sister Gina and Sister Shalom. In case there are still some congregations here who have orphanages and are not yet members, of course you know that your congregation are already members because you know that they attended the service agreements. So I think you send your sisters to attend last January because you want them to learn, you know? So, but there are still other congregations, one orphanages who are not yet, we don't know who you are. If you can help us by signing in the sheet of paper we pass around by Sister Gina, the name of your agency, and then the congregation running the agency, and then your address, email address if possible, so that when we have the next training, we can inform you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Connie. Now, before we break out into groups, we would like to show you a small recap of what we had yesterday.
Recap for Day 2. Day 2 of the 45th CMSP Joint Biennial Convention. Welcome to the CMSP Joint Biennial Convention, and here's the recap for Day 2. Day 2 of the 45th CMSP Joint Biennial Convention unfolded with the theme, Encountering Hope. From the very start, the day was rooted in prayer and fellowship, beginning with a Eucharistic celebration and lauds that set a sacred tone for the journey ahead. moderated by Father Hirohito Bolo, CICM, and Sister Mary Epifania, or Epi Brazil, OP. The morning sessions offered a deeper look into the mission and movement of the CMSP. Co-chairpersons and co-treasurers presented their reports, reflecting on the collective strides of the past biennium. This was followed by updates from the CMSP, JPICC, and mission partners, covering vital areas such as human rights, peace building, integral ecology, EMCR, IFRS, and the Visa Desk Ministry, each one a testament to the shared mission of hope and service. In the afternoon, Reverend Father Lino Gregorio Redoblado, OFM, inspired the delegates with his talk, Encountering Hope in Consecrated Life, Witnesses of Faith in Our World Today. His message invited everyone to discover the power of Christian hope, a gift from God, grounded in love that never disappoints. This was followed by a faith conversation where consecrated persons share their living stories of hope from the ground, turning testimony into encouragement and mission. As the day drew to a close, the community gathered for Vespers and shared a simple supper. The evening came alive with Celebrating Hope, a vibrant concert by the consecrated persons of Cebu, lifting spirits through music and witness. Day 2 was indeed a day of encounter, reflection, and joy, a living witness that hope, when rooted in Christ, becomes a light that guides our journey together in synodality.